Meanwhile, let's go back to Macron, the man who wants to govern like a Roman god, who goes to the palace of Versailles and summons the French legislature and tells them, you will not stop any of the reforms that I'm going to impose on you. Now he is telling France that they are going to no longer be allowed to buy diesel or gasoline vehicles by the year 2040. Now, that's kind of a ways off. It's certainly going to be longer than he's going to be in office, I can guarantee you that. But you have to understand that this is directed at Donald Trump. He is the one that Macron is directing this at. He says they claimed that they're going to end the sale of gasoline vehicles by 2040, and then they will become carbon neutral by 10 years later. The Energy Secretary there, Hulot, the ecology minister, rather, said he had an array of measures, and he had 6 different themes and 23 policy proposals. This is the way the little bureaucrats work. I'm sure he had a PowerPoint presentation for those people who had been summoned to watch the new Roman god hold court in Versailles. Most of these were very short on specific details. You can bet they were. And exactly how these objectives would be achieved. They said one of the symbolic acts of the plan is that France, which previously had made the promise to divide its greenhouse gas emissions by a quarter by 2050, has now decided to become carbon neutral by 2050, following the U.S. decision to get out of the Paris Climate Agreement. See, this is aimed directly at Donald Trump. And they point out, this is kind of interesting, because only 1% of the French people buy electric cars. The rest of the people don't. So what Macron is saying is, we don't really care what 99% of you want. We are going to mandate what you're going to buy. We're not going to make it clean. We don't care. We're going to just ban it categorically. And then you ask, well, where are they going to get the electricity to run their little remote-controlled battery cars? Because France is going to end coal-generated electricity production by 2022. So they're not going to have any coal to generate the electricity. They're going to cut the share of nuclear power generation in French electricity make up by 50% by 2025. So they're going to cut coal. They're going to cut nuclear. So where are they going to get this stuff? Maybe they can run it off of the hot air of politicians. This is absolutely insane, folks. And when we look at this, we had a story that came out about a month or so ago. We had an MIT scientist, Dr. Richard Lindzen, that was interviewed by Climate Depot. And one of the things he said was that these so-called climate scientists believe that UN pacts can save the planet. But he said this: these efforts are returning us to the Middle Ages. Exactly. Except that in the Dark Ages, you could burn things like wood, coal, even excrement to get fuel, right? Now we have plenty of those, especially a lot of BS coming out of the French. You know, there's no shortage of wood, coal, or oil. And yet they're going to tell us that we can't do that. When you take away people's cheap supply of energy, you not only destroy the quality of life, but you also shorten life expectancy. And we have an interesting story that came up today in terms of climate data. And I want to take you back real quickly in the time we've got to a report that I did for another organization about 2012, talking about ClimateGate 1 and 2. To put this in perspective, we'll talk about ClimateGate 3 that's just coming out. Let's run that clip.
Emails leaked in ClimateGate 1 and 2 show a contempt for peer review and a realization that their data doesn't support their conclusions without being fudged.
So, that seems perfectly okay.
But there's an American side to this story as well, one involving Michael Mann, who gave us a famous hockey stick.
Policies not just at the national, state, and local, but international level are being promoted in the name of catastrophic man-made global warming. And the hockey stick had served as, quote, the smoking gun.
Now, if you'll bear with me, I want to really emphasize this point.
As in the UK, American climate scientists are fighting to hide research data paid for by taxpayers and being used as a basis for public policy. Powerful men seeking to elevate themselves by global transference of wealth through carbon credits and other schemes is no laughing matter, but threatens to destroy untold wealth, jobs, and opportunity.
I'd just like to have some of those gold bars.
Now, we did that because we're trying to get the emails at the University of Virginia, emails that involved Michael Mann. But of course, we'd also had ClimateGate 1 and 2 out of the University of East Anglia. And these were scientists, I use the term in air quotes, that were emailing each other saying, We've got to find a way to hide the decline. The temperature measurements do not match our models and so forth. They refused to give up those emails. Eventually, they showed up, as you saw at the very beginning of that video. Pull up that clip there. It was 1,000 emails in 2009. That was the beginning of ClimateGate. Then we had another release of 5,000 emails in 2011. Interestingly enough, even though these universities were able to prevail in the courts, we got the emails off of a Russian server. They've been shutting down these globalist plans for quite some time. Today, the Daily Caller points out that a new study finds that temperature adjustments account for nearly all of the warming data. So I guess we could call this ClimateGate 3. And what they found is that data from NASA, NOAA, and the UK is going back and revising historical data. Going back to earlier decades, they lower the temperature, and then all of the adjustments to recent times are to raise the temperature so they can create a trend. Now, this is very important because groups are going to try to use this to come against the endangerment clause, which is very, very important that that be taken out. Now, stay with us. We'll be right back with more news.
We're selling a product, DNA Force, that is the very best nutraceutical that we can produce. Dr. Group, you took years for you to develop DNA Force for us.
It's been something that I've been working on for a long time, Alex, because I think it's very, very important. What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
We chose the PQQ because it has over 175 different clinical trials. It's one of the most effective substances in the world. It works like an antioxidant. It works to repair nerve growth factor.
So this is a formula to deliver the maximum amount. It's in powder form.
We have so many 5-star reviews. I take this. This is the product that I take.
InfoWarsLife.com, and the profit we make. We fight the globals. We fight the New World Order. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.